Right now, the average person in Singapore produces roughly $211,000 in goods and services every year. Across the strait in Indonesia, that output sits at about $25,000. Wealth at this scale correlates directly with a nation's ability to cultivate a massive workforce trained in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Indonesia is currently looking towards its Golden 2045 vision, banking on a massive demographic wave of 70 million young people to fuel its rise as a developed nation. Climbing the value chain requires a strategic pivot away from raw resource extraction. Future economic security depends on the ability to manufacture high-value technology, from electric vehicles to complex microchips. A youth population of 70 million provides raw human potential, but national power depends entirely on the mechanism used to transform those young minds into a technical workforce. Indonesia's current educational pipeline reveals a severe bottleneck. The entire country produces only about 250,000 STEM graduates each year. At the current graduation rate, it would take 280 years to provide STEM literacy to that generation of 70 million people. Indonesia's demographic window closes in just 20 years, making the current trajectory mathematically impossible. This failure has nothing to do with the innate intelligence of the students. When provided with proper resources, Indonesian youth routinely succeed on the international stage. The breakdown is purely structural. The country is facing a strict mathematical deadline. Without a radical rewiring of the educational pipeline, this massive demographic advantage will simply expire. Solving this 300-year problem requires looking at the base of the pipeline, the classroom teacher. Teachers in Indonesia often earn between 2 and 3 million rupiah a month. In Singapore, educators in the same fields earn the equivalent of 40 to 50 million rupiah. This compensation gap forces a predictable economic choice. The nation's most capable mathematical and scientific minds are financially discouraged from entering the classroom. These top-tier talents are instead absorbed by tech corporations, state enterprises, or foreign labs that offer salaries that actually reflect their skill levels. This leaves many schools reliant on educators who may lack deep mastery of the STEM subjects they are tasked with teaching, creating a cycle of shallow learning. Building a million-person STEM army is impossible if the frontline generals are paid poverty wages. Beyond capital, the system is held back by a culture that prioritizes formal degrees and administrative compliance over first principles thinking. Students are frequently rewarded for rote memorization, reciting treaty dates or rigid definitions word for word, rather than analyzing the underlying causal relationships between events. A system that punishes deviations from the textbook destroys the critical inquiry necessary to invent new technology or solve complex engineering problems. Geopolitical rivals take a far more aggressive approach. In China, millions of students participate in a grueling, hyper-competitive STEM mobilization designed to produce elite technical talent at scale. Programs like CUSPA specifically identified the most gifted scientific minds and sent them to top global universities to absorb foreign knowledge before bringing that expertise back home. Unless the culture shifts to value deep, critical inquiry over formal certificates, the country will remain stuck at the bottom of the global supply chain. How does a nation settle a 300-year educational debt in exactly 2 decades? It starts with a massive, targeted intervention, recruiting 100,000 elite STEM teachers and paying them executive-level salaries of 40 million rupiah a month. This diagram shows the scale of that investment. The 50 trillion rupiah cost fits comfortably within the national education budget, requiring a 10% reallocation to fund. Executive-level pay would force a new calculation for the country's top graduates. When the financial rewards of teaching match those of a multinational tech firm, the profession gains the competitive prestige necessary to attract the best minds. Rerouting elite engineers back into local classrooms functions as a high-yield investment in the nation's future economic stability. Moving forward requires a culture of brain circulation, where schools actively welcome top global talent to cross-pollinate with local students and teachers. This creates classrooms where educators have the confidence to admit when they don't know an answer, turning every lesson into a collaborative effort to solve complex mysteries. This classroom culture has direct geopolitical consequences. In a world driven by algorithms and automation, modern sovereignty depends on technological independence. Dictating a national destiny in the age of AI requires a population that deeply understands the machines. That strategic advantage begins at the front of a physics classroom.